Okay, so this one is kind of complex, but I'm going to try and do that. Going to try and show you it. Now, first thing I'm going to do is bust the toms, because I'm looking at how to gate toms, okay? I'm going to put them all to unity, right? I'm going to basically solo just these two. In fact, first thing I'll do, the whole drums are going to a bus, as you can see. All the drums are going through a drum bus. There's only 5 channels, kick, snare, overheads as a stereo pair, and tom 1 and tom 2. It's all going through it's going through a drum bus at the moment. And this is it here. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take the toms, I'm going to put them through their own bus. So I'm going to go bus, let's make a new random one. Let's just go bus 16. And bus 16, I'm going to call that tom bus. And then the tom bus, I'm going to put back through the standard drum bus, which is bus 2. So essentially there I haven't changed the sound or the signal path or anything, but what's happening is first of all, these toms are going to a bus. I should have done that before I did the drum bus really, but the tom bus is over here, and the toms will therefore play in their own bus, you know, and then they'll actually go back to the drum bus when you hear the whole drum bus. Anyway, that's just for a bit of separation, because you might want to do some overall processing on the tom bus, like EQ and compression and stuff, but I'm just going to do the gate first, because that's the first thing I would do. Now this is a little bit complicated, but this is what I'm going to do. Taking all the effects off both toms, the EQs, I've put them to mute, and I've put all the levels of the things down to unity. I'm going to have the tom bus going, right? So I'm basically just this little passage here, this 8-bar section. If I go back to the mixer, what I'm going to do is the main output, I'm actually going to bounce this. I'm going to bounce it as a mono file. I don't think it matters that much if you bounce it as a stereo actually, but I'm going to sum those two into a mono file, okay? And now I'm going to bounce this. I'm bouncing this as a separate audio file and make sure it's soloed. I'm going to call it tom key. Wave 20. Yeah, the same. You know, exactly the same file that you've just been recording in. I'm going to go add to audio bin, okay? So now I do that, I go bounce, shouldn't take very long. But you should do this for a whole track, by the way. I'm not suggesting it. I'm going to put the output back to stereo now as well, and then take it off solo. If you got a whole track, then literally this is a fiddly thing to do, but I suggest that you do this because it's a good idea. I'm going to get my tom key that I've just made now, I'm going to drag it into the bottom, and essentially I've just got a new audio file, which is those two files combined, but mono. Okay, so that's the first stage, that's what I'm doing, okay? And this is going to help me to make a very precise gate for the toms. Let's line it up with where the other one is. What I usually do as well is colour it in a slightly darker colour of what the actual toms are. So the toms are that, I'll do it as a dark red. Right, and now I have a track called Tom Key. If I play them, then all you'll get is the tom sounding louder now actually. Right, well I'll do that in a bit anyway. Okay, Tom Key. Now this is weird. The fiddly bit, the reason I'm doing this right is, a lot of people in mixing, and when I first was mixing with toms, I actually went through with the scissors and did every bit. I'm muting that for a second, by the way. And I actually did every hit. I got my scissors and I went doo-doom, doo-doom. I took out, you know, literally take out everything that's not a tom. Like that's a tom there, that's a tom. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. And you know, I'll undo this in a minute. But you know, I would have tom hits which just went, you know, toms like that, and then I'd do a crossfade at the end and then take them out. And a lot of people still do that actually. And so essentially just completely edit out any noise in between the toms. And you could do that conceivably with a gate or whatever, but anyway, what I think is the problem with that is you end up with a tom sound which sounds like sample replacement even when it isn't, and you end up with a tom sound where it starts to stop sounding like a real drum kit, because the bottom line is, like, the actual overspill that comes in through the toms, all your weird extra noise of the snare spilling in, you know, all this stuff here, cymbals. I mean, obviously, when the direct sound of the toms comes in, that's where the big beefiness comes in. But you've got a load of overspill going on. But in a weird way, when you get rid of that, your drum sound actually starts to sound a bit fake. That's from my experience and just a tip that someone who I was mixing with told me. So the ideal thing that you want is to not have it sounding fake, but also not have too much overspill coming in, especially because after you've EQ'd it the way I did with some quite extreme EQs, then you're EQing a lot of noise back through your drum track. Anyway, I'm going to show you this. I'll stop talking about it and actually do it.
Okay, so now I'm actually going to go in and be precise. I'm soloing the tom key track, the thing I've bounced down, the mono file. And what I'm going to do is get my scissors and do what I would have used to have done with toms. So I'm going to go through. This is a combination of both tom tracks. And if you've got 3 or 4 tom tracks, do it as a combination of 3 or 4. And I'm going to cut out all the bits that are actually tom hits. That's definitely a tom hit. That's a tom hit. That's not. That is. And then that bit comes out after there. For the time being, I mean, I'll zoom through this and not put it on the video actually, I think. But so like for instance, I've got dum dum dum. So let's go dum dum. Those two are dum dum da da da, and it stops there. But I'll fast forward in a second. But basically, you know, you end up with something that's a bit like this. It's going to sound like this. So all the tom hits that are actually there, you know, make sure you keep them. Okay, so I'm going to cut these all out, fast forward, and then come back to the next bit. Right, so I've done that now, and you can see that it's in these different little bits where you did the fills. Then you've got it, so it's like this now. And this. So that bit is, you know, that's got all the bits where it actually hits the tom. By the way, this is never going to be part of the final tune. This is not here to actually sit there in the audio. So the fact it sounds weird is you're not going to hear it in the end. You're going to take this out of the mix. Right, and now this is the point. So let's mute this again. I'm going to get the toms back. I'm going to put their EQs back on them. I'm going to mix them back as they were. I think they're about -3. This one was sort of over here. This one was, I'm going to put its EQ back on. That one was about something like this. Just hear them back as a bus again. Let's hit the whole drum bus actually. So anyway, right, cool. Now the drum bus, I'm just going to hear the tom bus. So let's choose one bit. I'll do this bit. So first little bit, I'm going to just loop around here for a little bit. Okay. Now a gate, obviously you probably know what a gate is, but I'm going to go on the dynamics. I'm going to get the logic gate up here, noise gate. Now I could use this as a standard gate thing, and if I change the threshold and do whatever I do with it, then the gate will kick in and out. Yeah, it's doing weird things until you solo it again. So I won't go into really what a gate does, but in the idea, I mean, I suppose in a way you could just do a gate like this with the tom track. You could, I suppose, just do it with the standard thing that's coming through it. But you'll see why I do this in a minute anyway. So you want to cut out the gaps, but anyway, for me, this isn't precise enough. Just doing a gate on the tom bus is going to be a bit weird because, you know, the tom's going to be hit at various different velocities. You know, they're going to be hit hard sometimes, soft sometimes. So this is the point, right? You go to the tom key again. I'm going to get these out again. Just hear the tom key. What I'm going to do is put the tom key through a limiter, and I'm going to slam it so it's ridiculous, like a flat line. I'm going to go, so limiter, I'm going to take the soft knee off so it's hard knee, and I'm going to slam it ridiculously high. Now I don't want to hear this too much because I'm gonna actually put it at +20 and I'm gonna take it out of the mix because, like I said before, you're never gonna hear this. It's gonna be there, but it's gonna be so loud, well, not loud, but so dynamically consistent that it's almost as a block of sound. So that's what that's there for. Okay, it's a completely slammed limiter. If you can slam it even further, slam it as hard as you can, so that it basically, so these essentially in the mix end up being a, I mean actually, well, you could hear it I guess. I'll put it back through output again. You know, the actual sound of it will be like that, but it's there simply to provide a signal for a sidechain. So the tom key is now there, and it's slamming as hard as it can. I'm going to go back to the tom bus, and what I'm going to do is, on the threshold here, first I'm going to set a look ahead, okay? Because often it misses the transients. 5 to 10 milliseconds, I'm going to set a look ahead so that the noise gate looks into the future a bit, and it goes like this and finds these and knows that they're coming. I'm going to set the sidechain to the track that I've just made, and actually it happens to be audio 34, which is tom key. When that's done, the threshold becomes not that important because this is so loud that it's going to kick in at any threshold really. And you can see the activity comes in. In theory, I guess it could be there. No, it can't. It have to be a little bit below 0 to make it work.
So it doesn't really matter where the threshold is. I'll just keep it around about here. So you can hear already how precise the tom gate is now, yeah? You can hear how precise it is because the gate is kicking in every time it hears this completely dynamically consistent signal. Dum dum dum. So far you've got now a perfectly gated tom track almost for your tom bus. Now, like I say, that's not what you want, because my whole point of this whole thing was when you remove all of the noise in between toms, you get rid of it and these toms start sounding fake. So if I change the reduction up now a bit, usually I find by about 12 dB, 14 dB maybe, the difference is, that's without it done, and you can hear that you're still feeding in a bit of the background noise. Now, the thing is, you want to mess with the attack and release and stuff to make it sound natural. Like I put a very slow attack, but actually 1 millisecond. Sorry, I say slow, I mean fast. And you can actually do a reduction to 100%, and then make sure that the release and stuff sounds natural for a tom. So you want it to release a little bit, do-doom, and then come down a bit. Maybe a bit more hold. You know. Make sure you've got enough body still coming through the gate, you know. That's all right. Yeah, and then when you've done that, you know, change the release to sort of, change the reduction. Like I find usually about -10, -12 is good. And so there you go. You have your toms still sound natural, and they still punch through the way they should. But essentially, you've just got a bit more control of the overspill. There's less overspill coming in. But like I said, it's a funny thing. But when you remove all the overspill, which you think you don't need, your toms start sounding fake, and your whole overall drum sound starts to not sound as cohesive, in my opinion anyway, my experience. So it's a bit fiddly. And then you might think, well, why not put a gate on each individual tom and do it that way? But if you do that, by the way, if you have like 3 gates on different toms, and they're opening and closing at different times, you'll start getting phasing, you start getting weird artifacts happening in your audio. And using the toms, thinking of the toms as one cohesive unit, like putting them through a bus, I think you'll find that you get a more overall satisfying sound. So actually, I'll just play it with everything in anyway. So this is... I suppose now, let me take the gate off and see if you actually notice any difference. Maybe not notice it. Yeah, you do hear it actually. There we go. Yeah, if you listen to that closely, you can see the difference. It's slightly tighter. And actually, let me hear it with the reduction, 100%. So that's the toms with no... See what I mean? Like basically, that's the toms with no gaps in between them at all. This is it with about 10 dB reduction. And yeah, and again. You hear how they die away so instantly, and you have no, you know, and it's just a completely surgical kind of sound. But anyway, that tom gate, do that before you do anything else on the bus. Like if you're going to do EQ on the tom bus or compression or whatever, but do that first, right? And that's what I would say anyway. So that's a tip, quite advanced, but when you start thinking about it, it starts working on other stuff as well. And sometimes it works on kicks, vocals, and there's loads of applications of this way of doing a sidechain. And especially with house music and dance and stuff, people sidechain synths and all these clever chains to actually make stuff, you know, clean stuff up a little bit, but still retain a bit of realism and a bit of dirtiness within certain sounds in a mix. Yeah, so have a look at that again and try it, because it's quite, I think you'll find that your drum sound will get a bit more cohesive. Yeah. Okay, cool.